Alright, welcome along for another lore video. Now last week, 3 systems came under attack from the Thargoids, and all of the usual things, the AX conflict zones, etc, etc, they all appeared as per expected, but there were no burning stations, and there should have been really. And the players asked FDev, because we know that FDev have been switching burning stations on and off at will kind of thing this year so far. Is this a mistake? Is this a bug? Is it deliberate? And FDev's replied saying, yeah, we kind of messed up there. Check out the situation on Thursday. And so yesterday, there are now 2 stations on fire. One in Didio, one in Sosong. There isn't one in Novas, the 3rd system that was attacked. But what there is they seem to have made up for lost time after having nothing last week and an abandoned CG, which was about collecting Thargoid samples, which was abandoned when it was found that the research limpets were a bit hit and miss when it came to collecting samples, so that CG got put on hold until they look into that. But they've made up for lost time this week by releasing no less than 4 community goals. 1 for the Alliance, 1 for the Empire, 1 for the Federation, and 1 for Sirius. So, the 3 for the superpowers involve handing in combat bonds after killing Thargoids to a nearby system. So if you kill them in Didio, you hand them into an Alliance ship nearby. If you kill them in the Federation system, same again. And, at a station. And the same for the Empire at a nearby station. So, but also there have been 3 interviews with Admirals from the Alliance, the Federation, and the Empire. As you can see here on the flagship Salote Charm in Didio, we can listen to the interview with Admiral Rachel Ziegler. And you can hand in combat bonds for Thargoid kills at the Plymouth Hull megaship in the Jianji system. These CGs are going to run for 2 weeks because that's how long it's going to take for Salvation to create 3 new super weapons, presumably to wipe these Thargoids out in these 3 systems with. So, for about the first time that I can think of, we actually know how long a system is going to burn for. These are going to burn for 2 weeks, and then presumably Thargoids are going to get cleared out of the system by the deployment of one of Salvation's super weapons, which are going to take him a fortnight to put together. So these are going to be ongoing, and as you can see, there's quite a few contributors already in Didio, in Novas, and in Sosong. And interviews with a Federation Admiral in Sosong, Empire Admiral in Novas, and the Alliance Admiral in Didio. The 4th CG is Sirius basically showing willing, and it's a delivery, cargo hauling one, delivering food cartridges, basic medicines, and evacuation shelters, which will then be shipped to Didio from the Sirius ship that you hand them into. That's only running for a week, so if you want to get in on that one, do it now. And all deliveries are to the Chariots of Rhea megaship in Alisti system, from where they will be delivered to Didio in military convoys. But what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go and have a look at these interviews with the 3 admirals from the Federation, Empire, and Alliance, and see what they think of the situation, and particularly what they think of Salvation and his super weapon and the Thargoid attacks in general. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to take off and go to the first of these. I suggest that you go to your navigation panel and filter for stations only.
Okay.
Alright, and then what you're looking for is the Salote Charm. And that is the Alliance megaship.
Okay.
And the first of the 3 interviews with the superpower admirals, getting their thoughts on Salvation, the Thargoids, and Sirius.
Right.
So yeah, the Alliance megaship. You can dock here if you want. But what we're interested in is the interview. So let's play that.
This is Jade Sandelin, reporting for Vox Galactica. I am here with Admiral Rachel Ziegler of the Alliance Defense Fleet. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to speak with you, Admiral.
You're welcome.
We're on board the Salot Charm, which is currently stationed in the Didio system. 2 days ago, a large Thargoid force arrived here and began attacking human ships and ports. There are reports that Salvation has asked your fleet, and those of the other superpowers, to hold the Thargoid force at bay until the...
Let me clarify your question before you finish it. My priority is the safety of the billions who call Didio home.
Scan detected.
We're not here to keep the Thargoid forces occupied. We're here to defeat them.
Understood, Admiral. Salvation has asked for time to prepare his superweapon, though.
Yes, he has. But the Alliance does not operate with the assumption that Salvation will deliver on his promise.
Do you support Salvation's methods? Critics have suggested he endangers lives by using a powerful weapon that has not been independently assessed by experts.
Whether I support or do not support Salvation is immaterial. The fact is, on 2 previous occasions, the superweapon has eliminated Thargoid fleets from entire systems. Rejecting such a powerful device would be unwise. Still, I think the question of risk is wholly appropriate. Military and political figures alike must not become complacent or over-reliant on Salvation's technology, particularly when we know so little about it.
Is that ambiguity a concern for the Alliance?
It should be a concern for everybody. So far, Salvation has acted in our best interests, but a weapon that powerful could be considerably dangerous if recalibrated to damage human technology. Imagine what the NMLA could have done with such a device.
Terrible things, no doubt. But your fleet in Didio could be seen as a tacit endorsement of Salvation by Allied leadership, regardless of your personal views.
As I said, Salvation's results are highly impressive.
Let's hope they remain so. We'll take a short break. Join us after these messages.
Vox Galactica.
Well, yeah. This journalist seems to be getting put in her place a bit. We are not here just to stall the Thargoids till Salvation comes along. We're here to protect lives. The fact that Salvation has got a weapon to deal with them doesn't change our mission, kind of thing.
Right.
So she was very quick to point that out. Which is true, because if Salvation didn't come along, you know, your AX guys would be out there fighting them. We'd be doing rescues. And, you know, it would be business as usual until the incursion was defeated. So I think that's a fair point that she's making there. Notice she was evasive on whether she actually supported what what Salvation was doing or not. That was quite interesting.
Yeah.
But all in all, you know, quite a straightforward, honest interview. So let's listen to part 2.
Vox Galactica.
Welcome back. I'm here with Admiral Ziegler of the Alliance Defense Force. I want to touch on the recent dissolution of the Aegis initiative. Has that decision had any impact on the Thargoid War, in your view?
From a logistical standpoint? No, not really. Aegis vessels have been repurposed by skilled pilots. I know of several prominent colleagues who are displeased, however.
Can you elaborate on why?
Aegis research provided several notable contributions to the war effort. For example, Meta-alloy studies gave us safe methods of storing Thargoid artifacts. Decontamination limpets increased ship survivability during Thargoid combat. Aegis also played a key role in the safe development and distribution of Guardian hybrid weapons technology. It remains to be seen who will lead such efforts now.
Critics have argued Aegis was poorly managed and achieved less than expected given the resources available to it.
Critics are going to focus on the negatives. That's why they're called critics. I'll bet you a Kobe beef supper these people have never encountered a Thargoid vessel in person.
Are you referring to the political aspect of Aegis disbandment? You've previously spoken out against decisions made by the Alliance Assembly.
Only the very poor decisions.
Does the end of Aegis fall under that category?
No, I don't believe so. The decision to end Aegis is understandable given the evidence presented in the Bauman report, even if I do not personally agree with it. My perspective has always been one of security. The ADF is a quickly mobilized fleet, but we lack the resources of the Federal and Imperial navies. Aegis improved the Alliance's ability to defend itself from a prolonged Thargoid invasion.
Sirius Corporation has offered to fulfill that role for the Alliance.
Yes, well, Sirius went about it very poorly.
Liang Rui has since recognized the lack of approval from the Assembly and appears keen to make amends. Does that sway your opinion at all?
I have no doubt that Sirius Core would improve the strength of the ADF long term, but let us not pretend that Mr. Yongrui's interest in the Alliance is altruistic. We'll see what he wants in return soon enough, I expect.
Admiral Ziegler, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Good luck in the coming conflict.
Well, thank you.
From the Salute Charm in Didio, this is Jade Sanderlin for Vox Galactica. Stay safe out there.
Vox Galactica.
Well, there I think she echoes what a lot of us feel. That, what is Sirius's deal here? Because nobody believes for 1 minute that they're doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. What do they want in return? And I think she's rightly cynical of it, as we all are, saying like, well, I guess we'll find out what they want soon enough. So next we'll head to the Sosong system.
Sosong?
Yeah. We'll
Yeah,
go
yeah,
there.
yeah.
We'll go there next. SOSONG. And we'll go there next, and we'll hear what the Federation Admiral has to say. When you get into the Sosong system, it may be a good idea to, well, it will be a good idea to go to your navigation panel and include points of interest, because this is a capital ship like you would see in conflict zones, for example.
Oh, those are my favorite.
Right, so you're looking for the FNS Amphion, and
Okay.
that's your Federation Farragut battlecruiser.
Ooh, that's cool looking.
Yep, a big Corvette. It's a big Corvette. The Federation not known for their aesthetics or their imagination. But once
Cool.
again, you should get the messages automatically come up without even having to scan the thing.
Yep, I got him.
And we are on board the Farragut class battlecruiser with Admiral Price of the
Can you dock with
Federation.
it?
Sorry?
Can you dock with it?
You can't dock with it. No, you can with the Alliance megaship, but you can't with this one. This is a capital class ship, so it doesn't have docking facilities or repair, refuel, restock. It's purely
Will they
their.
get mad if I try to land on it?
I don't know. You might get shot at. I mean, it is the
Okay.
Federation. They tend to be a bit trigger happy.
Yeah, it's true.
You're certainly welcome to try, though.
Very reminiscent of the Mars Navy from The Expanse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's not exactly, but the color scheme and
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at this antenna array up here. It looks like the front of the first Mars Navy ship you see in the first episode.
Interesting observation. Yeah, good call there. I mean, it's very Federation in the sense that,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
its functionality overlooks, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean yeah, technically it is just all the same like um, silhouette of a Corvette. They just kind of enhanced it to make it
Mm-hmm.
like it's cool. Let's see if I can fly around inside of it.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, we'll play the interview with the Federation Admiral.
Like,
My name is Jade Sanderlin, reporting for Vox Galactica. I'm here with Admiral Maxton Price on board the FNS Amphion in the Sosong system. I was very impressed with the tour of the ship prior to our interview, Admiral.
Can't say I'm surprised, Miss Sanderlin. Is this your first time on a Farragut-class battlecruiser?
Yes, it's one of the reasons I was so excited that my interview request had been granted. The Amphion just as impressive as I'd hoped.
Well, that's gracious of you to say. Of course, the Farragut-class vessels value performance over aesthetics. It's a lesson our Imperial friends would do well to learn one day.
I take it then that you consider yourself utilitarian.
In military matters, what other philosophy is there? A sleek ship will turn heads and attract investors, but when something dangerous enters your space, most soldiers would choose a powerful response over a pretty one.
Which brings us to the current conflict in this system. The Federal fleet has been asked to contain the Thargoid threat while Salvation prepares his anti-Xeno superweapon.
And I have no doubt that we will succeed. Federal military power is as strong as it's ever been. Funding provided by the Hudson administration over the past 7 years has allowed us to expand and modernize our fleet. It's a pleasant time to be an admiral.
I presume that you are in favor of Salvation's work.
Wholeheartedly. His results speak volumes to a man like me. The anti-Xeno superweapon has incredible range, a devastating impact on Thargoid craft, and is harmless to our own ships. What's not to like?
Aside from independent studies by the engineer Ramta, we have very limited information about the weapon. We also know nothing about its long-term effects on human physiology. Do you think there's any risk to the public?
Let me ask you a question, Miss Sanderlin. Do you think this hypothetical health risk poses a greater danger to the general public than a Thargoid fleet crawling through a populated system?
No, but
No, it does not. I've seen what the Thargoids are capable of. It's impressive, it's scary, and it results in considerable loss of life, if not dealt with quickly. Salvation has proven he can achieve significant victories for an entire system. Timid hand-wringing over the future is fine with me once we've secured a future in which to do so.
let's take a break for a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Vox Galactica.
this asshole.
He did.
Typical,
He didn't mince words, did he? He didn't.
No. He's like
I
a
tell you, it's one of the only times
typical-
I've ever felt sorry for a journalist.
Wow.
Wow. Well, you know, that is very, very Federation, militaristic, arrogant, might is right. Yeah, that's totally Federation. I'll give them their due. That's absolutely in character for them, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You could just see him as one of those ranting generals of out in Star Trek or something like that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
one of the Warhawks.
Yeah. Somebody has to negotiate with so that they don't.
Yeah, usually
Other
Picard gets
agencies.
stuck with it. You know, someone like
Yeah.
that. And there's him trying to be all diplomatic, and this guy's all fire and blood.
Yep.
Very, very Federation. All right, then let's listen to part 2.
Vox Galactica.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm here with Admiral Price of the Federal Navy. We were just talking about Salvation's contributions to the Thargoid War. Do you believe he is a true replacement for Aegis?
Absolutely. Aegis hasn't been a factor in this conflict for some time. I've viewed them as an auxiliary force at best, a hindrance at worst.
Could you elaborate on that?
Where would you like to begin? Perhaps with the lack of concrete results for several years, or the over-reliance on independent pilots to fight their battles for them? Maybe the loss of the Alexandria and the valuable Guardian artifacts it carried.
The Alexandria was sabotaged.
Whatever the method, the outcome was the same. Poor decisions and bad leadership led to the Alexandria's loss. Look at the chief military liaison for Aegis, Aiden Tanner. The man tried to forcibly invade Salvation's allies over some wild conspiracy theory about illegal research. That's the kind of leadership we're talking about.
Aiden Tanner was formerly an Admiral of the Federal Navy.
Never liked the guy. Bought into his own hype a little too much. Now he's in custody while a judge decides how long he'll spend in jail. The Federal Navy is better for it.
Well, I appreciate your honesty, Admiral. Before we wrap up, I was wondering if you'd asked for command of the fleet here in Sosong.
I did, yes.
May I ask why?
I felt the defense of Sosong was a high priority task and wanted to oversee matters personally.
This isn't the first time you've taken part in a Thargoid-related operation.
No, it isn't. At this stage of the war, any officer who lacks experience with Thargoid vessels is doing a disservice to the people they lead.
In 3302, you ordered Farragut-class battle cruisers to the Merope system soon after the discovery of Thargoid barnacle sites. It was claimed that independent vessels exploring the area were fired upon.
Claimed incorrectly, but yes.
It was reported that the JAG would open an inquiry into those claims, but no further details were ever released. Can you share the outcome of that investigation?
If the findings were worth a damn, you'd have heard about it. And if a crime had been committed, maybe I'd be sitting alongside Aiden Tanner in a jail cell. But instead, here I am, doing what I do best, protecting us from the Thargoids. Does that answer your question?
It sure does. Thank you for your time, Admiral Price. This has been an enlightening conversation.
I'm sure it has, Miss Sanderlin. I'll have someone escort you to your shuttle now.
That's kind of you. From the FNS Amphion in Sosong, this is Jade Sanderlin for Vox Galactica. Stay safe out there.
Vox Galactica.
Will do.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah. He wasn't taking any prisoners, was he? He was...
No.
I got to give them their due, though. That is brilliant. Brilliant. And nicely voice acted as well. I think the guy got the right level of condescension, arrogance, the whole sort of military mindset. He got it down to a T. So great job there by him. That was really, really good. I enjoyed that. It's pretty impressive. There's just guns down each side of it, turrets firing away. It's a real light show watching one of these things in action. It is basically just covered in guns.
Well, inside.
So, yes, very Federation. We don't care how it looks. we couldn't care less how it looks. But we want it to be able to take care of itself in a fight. And it certainly has more than enough weaponry to do that. So, okay, the last of the 3 interviews is in the Novas system. And that's where we'll go next.
Oh, I see. So the reason why there's no windows on this thing is because it's on the interior, because you don't want the windows facing out where missiles and artillery can.
Yeah, and you can see, can't you, the whole philosophy of it.
Well, yeah, the whole front end is where it looks like where all the, I guess, logistics and stuff are, but you can see the windows right through this little hole in the middle of it. It's cool. It's a Corvette in shape, but not not in full design.
No, no. I mean, it's basically just a massive piece of armor with guns all over it.
Yep. What was the system again?
Novas.
Nova?
Yeah. And that's the where we're going to find the Empire ship, and you couldn't have a bigger contrast to the Farragut battlecruiser when you see the Majestic class interdictor.
Oh, sure.
The INV succession, where we're headed now, is under points of interest, and it's an Empire capital ship. We've seen a Federation capital ship, now we're going to see an Empire one. You do see these if you go into high-level conflict zones, just as you do with the Federation's Farragut battlecruiser. This is the Majestic class interdictor. That's what the Empire call their capital ships. And our own fleet carriers are basically just modified capital ships. If you go into a conflict zone and you ever watch one of these things wake in and out, you've got the same dark storm cloud with the lightning coming out of it. Yeah?
Oh, right, yeah. Like,
And so, yeah, that sort of shows you that our fleet carriers are actually retooled, remodified with new artwork capital ships. So look, straight away you can see the difference. The Empire is all about style as well as functionality.
nice curves and sexy edges and all that.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's very, very Empire. It's not enough for something just to be functional. It has to look good as well. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that. I just don't like their ships. God, they always look like, I don't know, they should be a gravy boat or pouring something for somebody. Or like one of those old school lanterns from ancient Rome.
It does look a bit like that.
You know what I'm talking about? You light one.
This is typical
actually
Empire
cool.
philosophy, this is. It's got to look stylish. It's not enough for it to just do the job, you know.
Right. It's cool. It has like that. I like how they built in the gravity ring into the ship. That's pretty cool. That's some engineering. Good thinking there.
But you never saw a more stark difference in philosophies, did you?
In design, no. Certainly not. It's from this end, it almost looks like early TNG science.
Yeah, I mean, the Federation guy, obviously, you know, rivalry with the Empire and what have you, but he's not entirely correct in what he says, that it's just a pretty ship. It can take care of itself. It doesn't have as many guns on it as the Farragut battlecruiser, but it can certainly take care of itself in a fight. But this is Empire philosophy through and through. And if you've ever watched any of Drew Wagar's videos, who's a big fan of the Empire, he'll give you whole lectures on how it's not enough to just make a gun functional, it has to look good as well. You know, if it doesn't look like a fashion accessory as well as a weapon, then it's not good enough for the Empire.
Vox Galactica.
This is Jade Sanderlin reporting for Vox Galactica. I am sitting with Admiral Henry Paul Atherton of the Imperial Navy. Thank you for agreeing to this interview, Admiral.
Oh, please, call me Henry.
I'd be delighted to. This is a very impressive ship, Henry.
Some might say majestic. Yes, the Succession is a wonderful vessel.
How long have you commanded her?
Several years now, it has been an honor to have my name listed on the Succession's exemplary service record.
You were promoted to Admiral only 3 years ago. Does that change the personal dynamic with your crew at all?
Well, they salute a little faster, I suppose. Happily, I enjoy a strong relationship with my officers, so they took the change fully in stride.
Let's talk about Novus. I understand that the Imperial Navy has deployed a fleet here at Salvation's request.
That's correct.
Emperor Orissa recently resumed her duties following an extended absence from the throne. Having now surely been briefed on Salvation's work, does the Emperor endorse Salvation?
If the Emperor had objections, her navy would not be in Novas.
What are your objectives in the system?
Well, in case it has gone unnoticed, there is a major Thargoid invasion occurring here. It is our duty to protect civilian populations and prevent the loss of strategic assets.
I'm pleased that you mentioned civilian lives first. Does Salvation share this approach?
Almost certainly. Why else would he invest so much effort into his marvelous superweapon if not to protect people?
Some have claimed that Salvation prioritizes victory over safety.
Jade, dear, they are the same thing. The cost of war is human lives, and the Thargoids extract a heavy toll. Every invaded system, every burning starport, every ambushed convoy, every ship lost to hyperspace. We have repeatedly driven the Thargoids back from our space, but the wretched things keep returning. That cost grows each day. Salvation's superweapon has proven effective at wiping Thargoids from entire systems at a stroke. If Salvation calls that victory, while you and I call it saving lives, then I'm comfortable with the difference in perspective.
Thank you for elaborating. Let's take a break. We'll be back after these messages.
Vox Galactica.
Wow. Well, okay. Again, I think they've got the character absolutely spot on. You know, very, very, very posh and plummy, and very RP, don't you know? Yeah. He could have fitted in at any of our public schools, really.
He's a nice gent. He's a little less brash than the other two.
Yeah, a little bit patronising, perhaps, but yeah, you get that. That's completely in character with these sort of like upper class, and upper class types as well. You know, they've portrayed him as very much this sort of upper class British guy, haven't they? Which is quite funny because his name is Henry, and one of the nicknames for those sort of posh, plummy upper class guys over here is a Hooray Henry. So yeah, no, they've got that spot on. I don't know if they were particularly making that psychological link, but I have, and find it highly amusing. So okay, yeah, interesting what he says there about Salvation. You know, if Salvation wants to call it victory while we call it saving lives, let him. Despite what people have said, there is absolutely no evidence to support the accusation that Salvation cares nothing for human life. As far as we know, he has not caused one single human casualty. You know, he tried to warn the Cornsar system. Why would he bother doing that if he didn't care about them? He would have just deployed his super weapon and to hell with the consequences, but he didn't. He tried to get them to evacuate, and they chose not to listen. Now, I'm not going to say that he's completely altruistic and doesn't have ulterior motives of his own, but causing more human death and suffering does not appear to be in his remit. And it's interesting to note that it's only the Empire Admiral so far who's made a point of mentioning it. So, by the same token, she's only ever asked him that question. She didn't ask the question of the other two exactly. She kind of did with the Federation guy, and he just said, look, wiping out the Thargoids and saving human lives are the same thing, which is pretty much what this guy said. But anyway, let's listen to the last part 2, and see what Hooray Henry has to say.
Vox Galactica.
Welcome back. I'm here with Admiral Atherton of the Imperial Navy. Henry, I wanted to get your thoughts on Aegis. Has the disbandment of that organization had any effect on the anti-Thargoid efforts?
Yes, I would say that's a fair assessment.
In what way?
Aegis defense pilots were skilled at engaging Thargoid ships. That experience was valuable to the younger pilots defending Imperial territory.
Are you disappointed that Aegis is gone?
I think so. Yes, despite Aegis's faults, and it certainly had those, the initiative achieved much over the years. Also, Albert Tesreau is a delightful individual. Have you had the pleasure?
No, I have not spoken with Professor Tesreau. I hope to soon, though.
She has worked as hard as anybody to improve our understanding of the Thargoids. That dedication was reflected in Aegis's work. Poorly managed, it may have been, but it was certainly not poorly led.
Did you follow the news of the Alexandria wreckage discovery in recent months?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any comments to share?
The loss of the Alexandria is tragic, of course. A ghastly turn of events.
Has there been any attempt to identify the perpetrators?
Not to my knowledge, but then I am not an intelligence officer.
The Alexandria's logs suggest Aegis's efforts were undermined by other parties, though.
Perhaps, but that event was not the sole reason for Aegis's disbandment. What's done is done. Our focus rests firmly on what is yet to do.
Which brings us back to Salvation.
Indeed it does. The Imperial fleet will provide Salvation with the time required to deploy his superweapon by engaging the Thargoid forces in this system. The people of Novas will see firsthand how effective Salvation's methods can be. I believe that this war has an end in sight.
I truly hope so. Thank you for your time, Admiral. From the INV Succession in Novus, this is Jade Sanderlin. Stay safe out there.
Vox Galactica.
Well, interesting. You know, a direct contrast to what the Federation guy said, that, you know, Aegis had poor leadership, poor management, hasn't achieved very much. By a complete contrast, you know, Henry is playing up their achievements and saying that they may have been poorly managed, but they were not poorly led. A very distinct difference of opinion there. So there you have it. All three interviews with all three admirals. For those of you who haven't had time to go and check it out themselves, now all the voices are working. Nicely voice acted, I thought. Nicely done. Nicely put together.
Better than hearing an automated voice.
Oh, for sure. Or, you know, me having to read them out or something. Yeah, definitely. You know, it's great when they do stuff like this. And, again, you know, I'm going to give them credit. You know, they messed up last week. Should have had the Thargoid sample gathering CG, which kind of went to pot because the research limpets were hit and miss and people were saying they're not working all the time. You know, they're only working intermittently. And so that all got put on hold. And then we didn't get burning stations either, so it was a double whammy of mess-ups there. And I think they've more than made up for it this week by giving us rescues to do and by putting in these interviews and adding a little bit more to the lore. One thing which the Empire and the Federation are clearly very, very much behind Salvation and what he's doing. They're fully supportive of them. And it's only the Alliance who has any doubts. You know, only the Alliance Admiral out of any of them mentioned that suppose that weapon was recalibrated for humans, what then? Suppose the NMLA had got their hands on it and rejigged it to kill people instead of Thargoids. It could have been devastating, absolutely devastating. But both the Empire and the Federation have embraced what Salvation is doing against the Thargoids. It seems 100%. They've completely and utterly thrown their weight behind him. which is interesting. With a tinge of sadness on the part of the Empire, or at least on the part of Henry, who seems to think that it's a bit of a shame that Aegis didn't get more support than they did. I know he's not responsible for the Empire pulling their funding of Aegis, but the Empire itself and the Federation and the Alliance are all responsible, in my opinion, for the failure of Aegis, because they all pulled its funding but then still demanded that it get results.
Yeah, typical, right?
Right, and it's like, well, how do you expect us to do that when you won't give us any money? and you won't give us any support? What were they expected to do? You know, you cut somebody's resources off and then have a go at them for not achieving anything. That feels very much like blaming the victim to me, you know?
Right.
And I can't say that I like that at all.
Or
you know, so part of me does feel a bit sorry for Aegis. Yes, they could have done more with what they had. Yes, they didn't really achieve very much beyond giving us corrosion-resistant cargo racks and a couple of weapons and a little bit of insight into the Thargoids themselves. And Salvation has come along and achieved a hell of a lot more in a very short time than Aegis managed to do in over 3 years. But is that any reason not to take information from all sides? You know, they both have very different perspectives on the Thargoid War, and personally I miss that perspective from Aegis, which was more research based and military based. But yeah, we're at the wait and see stage again. This will run for 2 weeks. These attacks will run for 2 weeks, and then presumably Salvation will use his weapon and wipe out the Thargoids in all these 3 systems, and the stations will go into repair, and we'll be back to waiting to see where and when the next Thargoid attack might happen. Or this might be the start of the escalation of the end game, because we are approaching the end game now.
yeah, it could cause a really big retaliation. Too.
It could.
That be worse than previous attacks.
So we could be setting the stage for a big, massive battle with the Thargoids invading in force. I mean, it would be a very Thargoid thing to do. You know, come and try and wipe out the human race before they can deploy this super weapon again and again and again and again against them. And in some ways you couldn't really blame the Thargoids for that. I mean, I get what people are saying, that suddenly having a weapon that's far more devastating against the Thargoids than any other weapon we've seen is sort of pouring fuel on the fire. But on the other hand, and as I've said in previous videos, what's the alternative? Letting this drag on forever with the Thargoids attacking, being repelled, attacking, being repelled. You know, we've had that game of Wimbledon going on for years now, and something's got to give sooner or later. Something's got to end sooner or later. We can't just keep going round in circles like this, with stations getting attacked and then nothing happening for a while, then stations getting attacked again, then nothing happening for a while. You know, are people really saying that they would prefer that to drag on and on and on and on, instead of this whole thing with us and the Thargoids reaching a conclusion one way or the other? I mean, an all-out war might not be everybody's preferred outcome, and not mine either. But we don't have any other way of dealing with them. The Guardians deciphered the Thargoid language, and yet in all of the Guardian information we've picked up, we've never learned how to do that ourselves. Now, okay, the Thargoids did try, the Guardians rather, did try communicating with the Thargoids, and the Thargoids just ignored them and carried on attacking, and so even if we had the Thargoid language and tried using it, they might just ignore us and do the same to us. But the fact that we haven't even tried and gone straight for the war option, I know that doesn't sit right with a lot of people, and to a point it doesn't sit right with me. And I feel like we're being stampeded into a Thargoid war, whether we want one or not. But we're at the mercy of whatever they want to do. And in the meantime, there are the AX conflict zones to fight in for those who want to do that. There are Thargoid killing missions on offer in all the stations, in all 3 systems, as well as for the community goals as well. If you want to take a break from doing rescues or AX fighting, you can have a go at the Sirius cargo hauling CG. Remember though, that only lasts for a week, not 2 weeks like the other 3 CGs. And you can come and listen to these interviews for yourself if you like. So, yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up for this one. We'll see what happens next, as we always do. Are there any thoughts you'd like to add to all of this?
No, I'm good. Thanks, man.
Okay, man. Well, once again, thanks for flying with us. Appreciate that. It's always nice to have a bit of company when we're looking at these things.
Yeah.
Take a last look at this majestic craft.
At least I got the achievement.
Yes. Indeed.
Everything's cool. I took a few shots and put them up in the
Nice
Aegis
one.
channel
Yeah.
for you.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Look forward to seeing those. So yeah, I think there's back to rejoining the squad and getting on with some rescues, and
Yeah.
that'll
fun stuff.
keep me occupied while I'm waiting to
shift
see
charge
where this story
detected.
goes.
Right.
Frame shift drive charging.